guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Asu. In this video, I'm gonna be sharing some tips to help you remember vocabulary much faster. When we're having a conversation in a language, sometimes we forget the vocabulary. How can I remember them? And how can I use them in real life conversation when I'm having a conversation with somebody? Well, with the tips that I'm about to share in this video, you guys can memorize the vocabulary in any language much faster and easily. Okay guys, let's start today's video. In the past, I tried a lot of tips to learn English vocabulary. There are some tips which are not that helpful, but the tips that I'm about to share in this video are the ones that helped me a lot, and I'm sure you guys will also be able to remember the vocabulary by using the tips that I'm about to share in this video. Okay guys, let's go with the first one, the first tip. Use the vocabulary that you learned in a contest. In the past, I used to memorize a lot of English vocabulary, maybe 20 words or 30 words a day, but it didn't help me to improve my vocabulary or to expand my vocabulary because I was memorizing without even knowing how to use them in a contest or how to use them in some situations. Maybe you learned a new vocabulary. The vocabulary is collaboration, and trying to use it in a contest, trying to make some sentences by using the word collaboration, which you learned, of course. Whenever you learn a vocabulary, it is important for you to know where to use the vocabulary and to use it in a context. So when you learn a vocabulary, a new word, what you need to do is to know where to use the vocabulary and to try to use it in a context. Okay guys, this is what I did in the past. I note down the vocabulary in my book and I try to write my own sentences by using the words that I learned. The first tip is to know where to use the vocabulary and to try to use it in a contest. Okay guys, let's go to the second tip. Well, the next one is spaced repetition. It is to repeat the word again and again to remember it or to put it into your solid knowledge. This one spaced repetition is very helpful. You repeat again and again and you read them out loud. By doing so, it will be able to help you to remember it. If you learned the word collaboration, for example, you can use the spaced repetition method and try to repeat it over and over to remember it. Okay guys, this is what a lot of learners, or when somebody is studying, this is what they usually do. They use spaced repetition method to memorize. So for me, to remember the words, I repeat again and again, and then I try to use the vocabulary in a context, which is pretty helpful. So this is what I did in the past, which I'm still doing at the moment. The next one is reading. Well, I talked about reading a lot. Reading is really helpful to improve your English vocabulary, your grammar, including to remember words and vocabulary. But how? Well, when you are reading, you will see a lot of vocabulary. You can see the vocabulary in a context. I usually read to learn English vocabulary. By reading, I could improve my vocabulary, my grammar, and also my reading skills. If you guys watched my video, like the video that I made maybe 2 weeks ago, you guys will probably know that I talked about grammar, and in that video I also talked about reading. So if you guys haven't watched that one, well, I put the link in the description below. If you guys want, you guys can go check it out. Okay guys, let's continue with the video. So reading, if you guys want to improve your English vocabulary and want to remember words much faster or want to like see the vocabulary that you learned in a contest, you guys can read in English. If you guys are thinking what kind of books should I read, well, the books that you like, something like Harry Potter, which is about magic, and maybe probably some books about success or something that you like. If you love reading love stories or novels, you guys can read them in English. For me, I love reading books which are maybe about success or something that could give me knowledge. When you're speaking to somebody, you guys can use the vocabulary that you learned. After you learned the vocabulary, when you use it, well, it is really good for you. You will be able to recall it when you are speaking in English another time. So when you are like a person who loves chatting with native speakers or with your friends in English, you guys can try to use the vocabulary that you learned into the conversation. Or if you guys don't have any friends to practice your English with, you guys can record yourself speaking in English about a specific topic where you guys can use the vocabulary and then try to use the vocabulary that you learned. This one is the tip that a lot of people shared. This is to use flashcards. Flashcards, they're helpful to memorize the vocabulary. It's like playing a game, right? You are guessing the meaning. So if you guys want, you guys can create your own flashcards and write down some vocabulary that you learned and trying to repeat it or trying to like remember it or trying to say them out loud. The next one that I want to share with you guys is to practice. Well, in a lot of my videos, I say this one a lot. To practice, because it is essential or crucial for you to improve your skills in English, or if you are learning English, or if you are learning some new language, right? So you guys can practice the vocabulary that you learned, or you guys can write your own little stories. So this is what I did in the past. I will write some stories by using the vocabulary that I learned. You guys can write your own little story by using the vocabulary that you learned. In this way, it will be able to help you to remember it, or you're like using the vocabulary in the context, or you're trying to use them back when you are like writing. So it is helpful for you to memorize the vocabulary or to remember the vocabulary or to recall the vocabulary when you are having a conversation or when you are speaking in a language. So the tips and the methods that I shared in this video are the ones which I think is helpful and useful, and I use them and a lot of learners they also use them. So if you guys are wondering how to improve your English vocabulary or how to memorize vocabulary, you guys can use the tips and the methods that I shared in this video. Okay guys, happy learning and have a nice day. I hope this video is helpful for you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you in my next video.